Hi, it's Luke without a Darts. This is our assembly guide for the Little Rocket Mighty Mama. Mighty Mama is the largest in the Little Rocket family, and because it's larger, it's got a larger plunger tube, 70 millimeters in length. It can fire larger ammo. It's also compatible with all of the previous barrels, with one exception, that being the inline clip. It has so much air volume that it will fire multiple darts out of that. Barrels include triple mega, mega XL, sniper barrel, 5-shot elite or 10-shot short dart, 3-shot hyper, 3-shot elite or 6-shot short dart, standard short dart, ultra, because you know how much I love ultra, mega, boomco, single or double shot rival, and good old-fashioned elite dart. The tools you're going to need for the build are relatively simple. You are going to need a pliers, 2.5 millimeter Allen key, a Q-tip, and some super lube. We buy it in pretty large quantities. However, you'd be fine just using a little applicator bottle like this or one of our small super lube bottles. A flathead screwdriver, an X-Acto knife or hobby blade, and hopefully a hammer. Hammer is helpful for setting in the pin. It's also handy to have a terry towel or any piece of rag or cloth for when you're pressing the pins in. In the kit itself, you'll find all of the 3D parts, your pre-cut plunger tube, your spring, and a pre-bagged parts kit. Now, we've started doing these pre-bagged parts kits because we really don't want to disappoint customers by shipping something out and not having all of the hardware complete. So we're really meticulous about this. If you find you open your kit and you're missing something, do let us know right away and we'll make sure to get that to you immediately. First, we're just going to do a little bit of light prep work. You're going to want to take an X-Acto knife and just ream out the inside here on both ends. If you find that your tube shows up and it looks perfectly clean, it means that we have finished our tool, our jig here to ream them in-house before we ship them out. Then you're going to do the outside a little bit. Just getting rid of any flashing that's sticking out of the way. You don't want this to interfere with your plunger tube. Greg gave me a great tip here that I didn't think of off the top of my head, which is you can use either the flat side, the blade flat against here, or even the back side of the blade to ream and basically use it as a reaming tool to get any of that flashing off there. And that should do it for our plunger tube. Next, we're going to take our actual body and the X-Acto knife, and we're going to inspect the 8 holes where the square nuts go in. If you see any additional plastic that's in here that might interfere with the square nuts going in there, you'll want to just clean it up. Now, usually these look pretty good and they won't require a lot, but you might find a little bit of plastic here and there. If there's any stringing or anything like that, you can just pull that out. These are actually looking pretty darn good to me. There's a little bit there, so this is a good example. And I'm just cleaning that out slightly. There we go. Next, we're going to install our square nuts. You can essentially put these in by hand and then push them in place with this, or you can grab them and kind of just insert them in like so. And when you get it part way in, and then you can just push it the rest of the way in with the tip. Then just repeat for the other 7 holes. When you're doing these bottom holes, definitely give a little bit of support. These are a little weaker than the other end due to the skeletonized design, so just as you're pushing on them, support from the back side of it. And there we're done with the square nuts. After you've done all of the square nuts, it's good to just go back and check that all of them look like they're lined up with the holes. If they're not lined up, I can see one here that I haven't pushed in quite far enough. I'm just going to give it a little push to go in a little bit further. That one looks good. And here's one right here. Hopefully you can see on the camera, it's just a little bit short of being all the way in, so there I felt it pop into place and we're good to go. Next, we're going to install our plunger tube. I will note that we're deviating slightly from Tarek's written directions on the website. Either way is fine. First, you're going to take your priming rod and you're going to insert it into the base plate here. Now, it's super important, Greg tells me, that you can see the logos. If you install it this way, it's bad luck. So we're going to do that. Then we're going to take our spring, put that in the middle, insert the plunger head on, and all the way to the end. There's a stop at the end, which should line up, and you should be able to see clean through that hole, which hopefully you can see here on camera as well. Then we're going to take a cloth. We can set this down on the table, and we're going to start the pin with our fingers and just give a gentle tap here. Now that we've got the pin most of the way in, you can see that it's still protruding out of this groove. We need to set this completely under there. To do this, you can either use a pin punch, or something that a lot of people have around is a used or old stock motor. These have a 2mm shaft, so they're perfect for pounding in a 3mm pin. Alternatively, you could probably make an Allen key work by pounding on the edge like that, but I'm going to show you just with a motor here because it's basically the free pin punch that everybody has. I'm actually going to start it halfway with this screwdriver, and then I'm going to hit it with the actual motor, using the motor as a pin punch. Now, as long as this is below the surface, if you rotate this and you cannot see the pin, you're good to go. But you'll notice you do have quite a bit of room, so you can go a little deeper to even out both sides if you like. The pin's in there just with friction, but there's plenty of friction. It's not going anywhere once it's installed. Next, we'll install this assembled plunger assembly into the body, and we'll take 4 of the M3x12 screws and screw them down into the top. There are 2 screw sizes. The long ones obviously don't fit. Those are for your Picatinny mount, so make sure you're using the shorter of the 2. Next, we're going to lubricate our plunger tube. Now, as I said, you could use a Q-tip for this, but since I have our shop solution readily available, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And Greg's telling me I'm being a little generous here on the lubricant, so you could do a little less than I'm showing here. I kind of took a pretty big dollop there. It's not going to hurt anything, but you don't need to have any more lubricant in there. So let's say half that. Now that you've got that lubricated, you're going to slide that down through the plunger assembly. And this was Greg's little tip, is doing it this way avoided having to send the plunger assembly through with the lubricant already on the O-ring. Next, we'll take our O-ring, and we're just going to install that on the end. And then we're going to want to add lubricant to that O-ring as well. And just pull that back slightly into the plunger tube. If your O-ring pops out of place anywhere around here, just reset, push back out, and just try help it into place. Once you're in the plunger tube, you won't have a problem with it jumping. Then pull back the priming and let the whole assembly shift forward slightly. This will ensure that the O-ring stays put while we finalize the assembly. Next, we're going to install our 2 O-rings and the front nozzle. So you'll need your 2 O-ring sizes, 4 more of the M3x12 screws, and your nozzle. This is my personal favorite part. You take the smaller O-ring and you just kind of shove it in here, and then you just kind of keep playing with it with your fingernail. You just kind of go around. I don't know why, but I find this so satisfying. Because it feels like there's no way this fits, and then just boom, it's in and never comes out. Then flip that over and we'll install the other O-ring. You pretty much just press it in place. Then we're going to place this on our plunger tube. Now you'll notice aesthetically there are 2 kind of orientations. I think Tarek designed it to be vertical like this, but there's actually no difference. You can put it that way or you can put it this way. And you're going to push that down and install the remaining 4 M3x12 screws. And you'll want to tighten these in a crisscross orientation, meaning do diagonal pairs at a time. Lastly, we're going to install our trigger. First, you're going to take your small catch spring here. If you give this a little turn, it'll usually grab on here, which helps quite a bit. Then you're going to line this up here. There is a small hole right here that the trigger spring sits in, and then you're going to line up this hole. And I usually like to hold this kind of flush here. You can balance it so that just one finger can essentially hold this in place. You're going to get out a terry towel or something to set this on just to prevent it from rolling too much on you. You can set your pin in by hand first slightly, and you should be able to tap gently to get it in place. And again, if you need to tap it a little farther, you can use your trusty motor or Allen key or anything else to kind of get the last little bit. As it sits, it should sit evenly on the 2 sides here. So you'll see I've got a little bit more gap on that side, so I'll probably tap that through just a little bit. It does not have to be perfect. We just don't want it sticking out of one side or the other. Before we actually put it on anything or mount anything, it's a good time to test actual functionality and make sure that the seal is good. First, you can prime it and just cover the end, and you should see the plunger actually hang for several seconds, and that indicates we've got a really good seal. As long as it hangs for a second or so, you've got as much seal as you're going to need. And then I like to also give it a prime, install a barrel. Here we've got my personal favorite, the Mega XL. I think I'm pretty sure I just shot grease across the room. Oh my gosh, I literally did. Oh boy. Lovely. Finally, we can go ahead and install our actual rails. Now this is Picatinny rail. Tarek did a really cool thing here where he, not only are these labeled what side is what, but you can mount these on 3 different spots on the blaster. So there are 3 sets of rails on the left, bottom, and right side of this blaster, and you can choose where you want to mount this. Now, this won't hold all that well without being attached to an actual blaster, so generally I just bag these up and keep them around. But I think I'll do the side mount. Let's do the side mount on this one. But essentially, you put the screw on the side that says screw. We've really got these labeled more for us here in the warehouse so that there's no confusion when packing them up. But it doesn't seem like it'll hold, but we've tested these extensively. You're just going to press these nuts into place and install this on a blaster. Depending on the blaster you install these on, you may need to completely separate the 2 halves. It will really depend on the type of Picatinny rail you're actually attaching to and how much tolerance it has. And there we have it. That's our fully assembled Little Rocket Mighty Mama. I really like Mighty Mama. It's definitely got more punch than any of the other family members, and especially the ability to fire the Mega, which in our games here is a shield buster. I find that really, really fun. And triple Mega is kind of cool too, though currently in our games this is just shield piercing, meaning it only eliminates the player, but that's still decent. Fun add-on to any blaster. If you have any questions about the assembly, do leave us a note down in the comments and we'll be sure to reply to you and answer any of your questions. Thank you so much for watching. I'm out of darts.